Hello again from James Roughton, and welcome to my blog. This will be a 7-part series that will hopefully help you understand what a value system really is. In Session 1, we'll talk about culture and safety. Part 2, what sets the culture. Part 3, why do cultures fail. Part 4, what are values. Part 5, recognizing success. Part 6, what can we learn. And number 7, safety culture defined. In today's discussion, I want to talk about defining a value system, and in particular, culture and safety. The question is, how do you really define a value system? And here is my point of view on safety and culture. Today, we are bombarded with many terms that we have to filter out in order to describe or define our safety efforts. For example, one term that we constantly use is behavior-based safety. We use behavior-based safety to describe why workers or employees engage in risk-taking behaviors. Another common term is job hazard analysis, or GHA. The GHA is used to train employees on how to perform their tasks safely. One cannot pick up a safety journal, read an article, or go to a conference where someone is telling us that behavior-based safety will change your program. But what they don't tell you is that this is only one element of a good safety management process. Dan Peterson stated it best, what works in one organization may not work in another. We will discuss behavior-based safety in another podcast later on. But for now, let's discuss a little history on safety culture. Some managers and safety professionals alike pretty much ignored the concepts of safety culture in the 80s, and as management attempted to improve their safety culture through changing their leadership styles and through employee participation, their safety efforts changed very little. You may be asking the question why, and in my opinion, management was using the same elements that they always have used, and in some cases we still have not learned our lesson. We're still using the same old traditional type safety methods and using the same program elements that we have always used. This is where I am reminded of the statement that you've heard many times before, and I think it's worth repeating here. Definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It's just not going to work. And under the old traditional style of safety management, this is very common. In many cases, safety programs typically consist of the usual things such as safety meetings, which end up being information dumping, facility inspections, walking through a facility just to see what you can find wrong, and injury investigations, really not getting to the root cause of the injury, with little emphasis on identifying and correcting hazards in the workplace. Many professionals still perceive these tools as the essential elements of the safety program. These tools do not create a safety culture or build a successful safety management system. To really understand the basic concepts of the safety culture, you should review the OSHA voluntary guidelines to see what is suggested. However, be warned that these elements are perceived as safety programs and not a process. But some of the elements are important. Using these elements as a safety program and not a management system only supports the culture if there is top management commitment. There are several good guidelines that have been published recently that can help you along your journey to develop a successful safety culture. These elements are considered part of a model safety program. For example, the ANSI Z10-2005 Occupational Health and Safety Management System and Z1000-06 the Canadian Standards Association's Occupational Health and Safety Management. In addition, if you take a look at California's SB 198, which in some circles is called I2P2, Injury, Illness, and Prevention Program, which the government is talking about implementing sometime in the near future, but there is a lot of uncertainty. But if you review these documents, you will see some similarities in a safety management system. While OSHA and some states were going down the essential element track to safety of suggesting implementing a management system, a number of research pieces began to come into play with different answers to the safety problem. Most of the research results were consistent in saying there are no central elements. As we discussed, what works in one organization may not work in another. Each organization must determine for themselves what will work for them. The answer to me seems to be clear. It is the culture of the management team, the employees in the organization, and the organizational structure that determines what will work. But there is good news. If you review the ANSI Z10 and the Canadian Z1000-06, you will see elements of the safety management system. With these standards, you have an opportunity to pick and choose the best elements that will support your environment and help you start to develop a successful safety management system. But it all comes down to what really sets the culture. We will discuss this in more detail in the next podcast. Until then, thank you for listening to this podcast, and good luck on your journey to success. James Routon.